Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Yahleal in this incarnation. Today we have the moon going through Cancer, today, tomorrow, and there is a greater contact with our emotional world. Notice what symbolizes nutrition right now for each one of you. And it is also important to pay attention to certain dynamics that could be given from maternal or paternal. I don't know if this is the expression, more linked with the father roles that are not corresponding, whether because there is this demand of energy of other people attending our emotional needs and we are the ones that we need to attend them. I am referring, of course, when this is excessive, because when if we are in relationships where there is no reciprocity or consideration with our emotions, there's also an imbalance. Or whether because we are containing, we are giving contention, we are caring, protecting excessively other people. And with the activations with current in Aries, this ends up, causing anger. In fact, the moon tomorrow going through Cancer, it is going to create tensions with current in Aries and Mars in Libra. Then I wanted to talk about a little bit more of Mercury, because it is in its last days and in an opposition with Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and the functioning of analysis and selection of information. It is something totally necessary to inhabit the plane of the matter. That is what our mind does, and that is what responds to the function of Mercury in Virgo. It is very linked, with this expression. And not only to inhabit in this plane, but also to focus in processes that are actually responding to the purpose and the service that each one of us came to exercise. I mean, not everyone is here to know about construction or to know everything about, the animals of the sea, biology. Not everyone is here to know everything about astrology or whatever thing. So as part of the optimization of what we need to incorporate, we are going to find ourselves more interested in certain information than other information. What happens it is that when we didn't discover our own purpose, there is a greater tendency to distractions with our mental focuses. But well, that is also part of the process, because when we are, catching information of different things, we can also understand what is part of that and what is not, what is part of the sense of the soul and what is not. That is something more linked with Mercury in Gemini, the diversification. But the thing that I wanted to talk today, it is when our ways of processing reality are limiting the growth that the soul came here to express. That is what I call in many videos the conditioning or the programming that many people call. Because truly that conditioning is born many times from previous experiences. I mean, if a person is saying, I cannot trust in people because they are always causing a deceit. They cause a deceit, they are betraying me. It is because that person experimented that, and that was established in her or his mental structure, because that person lived that, and we can not only tell that person, this is a belief, but the thing is that if that perception is perpetuated in time, it is going to lead the person to the repetition of the experience. And because it is a hypothetical situation, we cannot go to the core of the history, because there are thousands of possibilities to imagine. But let's suppose that unconsciously that person chooses that kind of relationships in which other people effectively are, cheating, are deceiving. And the person is doing that because what that person needs is to break with the structure of trusting automatically and to start to listen his or her intuition. Perhaps the excess of trust that that person is depositing in other people, it is responding to a rejection of being alone. And it is opening himself or herself too fast with people that are not actually valuing his or her energy. But the unconscious or secondary benefit, it is precisely not generating connections of vulnerability or honesty with other people, perhaps because the examples of basis that that person had, people, members of his or her family, caused a great damage. So we are imagining this, of course. The important thing is while we are perpetuating that kind of thought, for this example of person, I am the victim of the circumstances and the other people are the bad ones. If we cannot open ourselves to a new perspective of our own history, we we are not going to be able to see the participation and therefore changing circumstances. I am saying this because, as I was telling in the video of the Virgo eclipse, a certain limited patterns that we sustain, they bring this unconscious or secondary benefit. The situations of blockage, restriction, the hard lessons that represent the energy of Saturn, especially in tension, because Saturn is also construction, consolidation, the authority that we can materialize for having integrated certain learnings, for having been perseverant or patient. But I am referring to those kind of circumstances that we are feeling as a limitation or a lack of something. Lack, it's also an expression of Saturn. Well, those situations, they also have a hidden benefit. That is the revelation of light, finding in a situation that apparently is negative, the proposing of development that life is making. So when we are operating from these limitant structures in our mental identifications, if we are not aware of that, there comes a moment where life has to bring an experience that pushes us to move from that space and to put a boundary to those old forms so we can focus in other things that are going to respond to that growth of the soul. Because coming back to the initial example, it is very frustrating to experiment once and again the repetition of a situation that we don't want to live anymore. So if life brings this painful lesson that many times is painful, it is because it's pushing us to turn ourselves aware of what we need to change. It is manifesting for our greater benefit. Meanwhile, when we are going through the processes, that's not easy, especially when we are not understanding what we need to incorporate. That is, the thing that could generate the frustration the most, because we are not seeing the sense of that situation. The sense, it is not always revealed, at that time in the present moment. That's why it is very important to open ourselves to that, because when there is a genuine receptivity, the information can come. But also with Saturn, it is very important the patience, because many times we need to go through certain situations before or experiences, so when the information comes, we can really understand it or assimilate it. And I know that many people, could be very tired of listening to the word patience. And in fact, oppositions between Mercury and Saturn could make us turn, our perception could turn slower. The time could be slower with these transits. But it is the absence of inner peace what truly makes things very, very difficult. And that peace respond to different callings depending on what we are transiting and what we need to approach. The important thing in here, it is that we are very, very conditioned to focus in the results in a specific point, but that is not the important thing. It is not about reaching something. It is actually being able to flow with the movement that the soul and life are impulsing us to make. And we are, in this path to the eclipse in Virgo, where the light of the sun is going to be turned off for a moment, because it is our ego, the one that we have to put aside if, it were creating an obstacle to our advancement, so we can experiment the changes that are proposed to us. I am not referring with this to repress our emotional states nor losing ourselves in them. If this happens, each one of us are going to detect that point of it is, I don't know the word in English right now, but it is the point of ending, the point of draining, whether this is a perception, a situation, a path. And the learning of managing the resistance, if the resistance appears with these situations, is totally personal. That is the reason, because we can impulse other people to grow in their own paths, but that doesn't depend on us. The others have their own processes and vice versa. Therefore, it is also important to respect other people establishing boundaries. I am going to end this video here today. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.